Hello and welcome. The media tour information is out, and so I wanted to talk for just a moment about the job changes that we know of from there. Obviously, everything is subject to change, but we have a little bit more of an idea of what these jobs are going to be like in Shadowbringers. And so I wanted to talk about each one and my thoughts on it, whether I think it's a good change or not, and whether I'm still excited for it or not. We'll start off with the tanks with Dark Knight. I think that Dark Knight is maybe not quite as powerful as the other tanks, just based off potency numbers that could, again, still change. All of it is subject to. But I think that the balancing of the MP that Dark Knight's going to have to do now, I thought when we first heard that Dark Arts was not going to be a thing anymore, that Dark Knight probably wouldn't have to balance MP as much. MP is going to be very important to Dark Knight, and it will be the difference between the good Dark Knights and the bad Dark Knights as to whether or not they can manage their MP and their blood gauge correctly. And I really like the way that Blood Weapon and Delirium work now. The fact that Unleash no longer costs MP, so even a bad Dark Knight could still hold aggro. But a good Dark Knight is going to be putting out a lot more damage on top of that, managing their MP. I really like that you can clip some skills and waste MP, that you can wind up gaining back more than you would have. And thus, if you had played it, maybe a little bit more closely, you wouldn't have wasted that MP. I think that's really cool, and I'm excited for the challenge that it brings. It's still not my top of the four tanks, but I'm still pretty stoked for Dark Knight. I think it looks really good. I wish we knew a little bit more about how the clone, the Simulacrum, chooses its moves, but as of right now, I'm still very excited. Dark Knight. As we look at Warrior, I think Warrior looks good. I think the raw intuition change being a 25-second cooldown, that's insane. Its raw intuition is going to be so good. I like, however, that Nascent Flash shares that cooldown, and so you have to make a choice. And I'm one of those people that likes jobs to be challenging. I like jobs to have choices that you have to make. And if you can just push a button and you always have this cool thing, then I'm one of those people that thinks that it should just be gone, But if you can instead, like Heavy Thrust, for instance, you can push a button and always have the damage for Heavy Thrust, or you could just give me that damage always and get rid of Heavy Thrust and let me use the more interesting parts of my toolkit. And that's where I think Warrior is going to be with Nascent Flash and Raw Intuition. Both of them are good. Both of them have completely different uses. And so you have to choose which one you're going to use. We know that Storm's Eye and Storm's Path are still going to be here, which is really nice. I think that the way that those two skills work together is really cool. I think the stuff with Storm's Eye adding to or Mithril Tempest, that is, adding to the Beast Gauge and extending Storm's Eye is really good because it incentivizes Warrior to use that AoE rotation that it really didn't have before. I'm really happy with a lot of the Warrior changes. There's not really anything that I'm upset about. Having Unchained, it makes sense that it's gone, There's not really any skills here that I'm super upset to see gone. I'm still pretty excited for Warrior. Paladin, I'm really excited for what Paladin is bringing to the table here. There are a couple things that I'm kind of sad to see go. I really liked Flash because it, even if it didn't do any damage, it gave that temporary blind. It was really easy to spam, but it sounds like we're not going to need it anymore. Bulwark being gone is kind of a shame. Sword Oath has been completely reworked into the kit, so that's cool. I'm not upset that it's gone. I think the Sheltron change is really good. Being able to block anything for 6 seconds at the cost of 50 gauge. It's kind of a shame that cover has been nerfed, but again, cover was really good the way that it was. They didn't touch Hallowed Ground at all either, which makes sense because it's too good. But if they nerfed it, that would be a problem, right? So I think Paladin looks really strong. Replacing Rage of Halone with Royal Authority is something that I'm going to miss Rage of Halone. I think Rage of Halone looks really cool, but I'll still have it when I sink down. And Royal Authority is just better in every way. So that's cool. I like that you have more AoE and you have more options with Requiescat. So, for instance, you have the ability to burn Requiescat to use Confiteor or Confiteor. But if you do that, then you no longer have Requiescat, so you want to balance it between using it at the end of your MP phase to be able to throw out more Holy Spirits or Holy Circles, which is your new AoE Holy Spirit, thank you, or to use it earlier to get the extra damage buff when you're above 80% MP to be able to do more damage with Confiteor. It's a cool toss-up that you have to decide in the moment, and again, as we talked about with Dark Knight, I prefer that in my jobs. I prefer that complexity that makes it where my paladin may be a little bit different from your paladin, but we both have an answer to the same situation. I also really like that it finally has a gap closer and that it's on charge. That's going to be a lot of fun to play around with. I think that Paladin looks really cool, and I'm excited for what Paladin brings to the table. I think by far the best looking tank, though, is Gunbreaker. Gunbreaker is insane. Having the whole cartridge gauge is cool, right? But having a basic combo that grants a heal and a regen effect, or heal and a shield, sorry, that's insane to me. The fact that you have your combo, and then in the middle of your combo, you have an off global cooldown combo that goes with your combo sounds really fun, and I really want to play around with that. I think the stuff with its gap closer looks really cool, just like Paladin's. I think that the different benefits it has when it comes to utility, it has a heal that is not a terrible heal that gives a regen. Gunbreaker looks really good, and I'm very excited to see what Gunbreakers are going to be able to do. The only skill that looks a little underwhelming to me is Superbolide. I'm not sure how you would pronounce it. The Invuln. And that's because it takes you down to 1 HP. And that feels a little weird to me. I think if it took you down to 1 but had a shorter cooldown, because it has a 7-minute cooldown, just like Hallowed Ground, maybe that'd be fine. But taking you down to 1 is almost a guarantee you'll die unless you get healing, you know? And, I mean, granted, you could heal yourself, I guess, with Aurora. But it just feels a little strange to me to take you down to 1. But hey, maybe in gameplay it'll feel great. I don't know. We'll see. That region seems really good because you can stack it on top of other regions as well. So maybe it works out. We'll find out. I'm really happy with all 4 tanks. I think the tank changes are really cool. Getting rid of the attack stance, the DPS stance. I know a lot of people might be upset about that. I think it's a net gain because the people that were already at high level play that were just in tanks or in DPS stance all the time and using their cooldowns to combat attacks that would do a lot of damage to them otherwise, it's not going to change anything for them, but now they have more defense. Now they take less damage. For the players that weren't at that top tier of play, that are at the bottom tier of play or mid tier of play, somewhere in there, they are now getting a flat bonus of they always have the extra defense buff and they can put on the stance to get extra aggro. And so, in my opinion, it's a flat gain all across the board. Even though there are going to be some people that really miss having the DPS stance, I think it's just a net positive at the end of the day. Real quick on the tank roll actions, I like that Provoke now gives aggro, as well as putting you at the top of the list. It'll save a lot of problems with people that don't understand how Provoke works, and try to use it thinking that, well, now I'm back in charge, and it's like, no, it just puts you at the top. You need to hit that mob. And so now, you know, Provoke doesn't have that problem anymore, which is very nice. I think that Arm's Length is cool. I'll use it. Having it on all the non-caster classes is interesting, but it's not something that I was really looking for. So I'm not going to complain. But okay. I think the loss of anticipation, convalescence, and awareness are really kind of bummers. It was nice having those extra tools, even though a lot of times we don't use, let's be honest, a lot of times we did not use awareness. It's really good, but not anymore, I guess. So it's kind of a shame, but I think we'll get by without them. For healers, this is the designation of classes that I know the least about from the media tour information. I watched a lot of videos on them and looked at the listings, but there's still not a lot of information because there weren't any dungeons that you could run at 80 to be able to see what some of those later skills did in action in a dungeon environment. The dungeon they could run was only at 73. So unfortunately, we don't know a lot about all of it, but we know a little bit. And we'll get into it after we talk about the healers. I'm not as negative as I know a lot of people are, according to the subreddit and the official forums. But let's just get into them and we'll talk about it afterwards. So for White Mage, sure, Arrow 3 is gone, and Holy got nerfed a little bit in damage. That's kind of a shame, right? However, now you get a new dot that you get when you get high enough level called Dia. It replaces your basic Arrow 2. And you have Holy may only do 140 potency now, but it has no fall off, so it does 140 flat to all enemies, and it only costs 400 MP. So it's so much cheaper now. You can basically spam it It's insane to me. Because I love using Holy already, so being able to just spam it, yes, I'm in. I know a lot of people will go, but 140 down from 400 is so terrible. Even with the drop off for 2 or 3 mobs, it was great. For 2 or 3, yes, but in big pools, this is going to be so much more of a positive because now you're going to do 140 to all of them, not 60 to that guy in the back because drop off happened. So I'm very excited for that. Then you have that lilies can now give you a new DPS ability every 90 seconds, and that DPS is basically just a nuke. It's basically flare. Sure, I am super down for that. Regen and Medica 2 now do 1 less tick, but do more regen in the tick, so that's a net gain for me. And Fluid Aura is kind of useful now, in that it's a bind from a distance, so sure. I really like White Mage, it's my main among the healers, and I'm pretty excited about these White Mage changes, actually. I know a lot of people that are like, but the damage, it's so much lower. It's like, yeah, but we can use it so much more. And with all the other instant cast heals that they're giving us, we can just throw those holies out like crazy, like candy. It's you get a holy, you get a holy, you get a holy, everybody gets a holy. Here we go. Super excited for White Mage. Scholar, I've seen a lot of pushback on. A lot of people seem pretty upset about Scholar. However, I think these Scholar changes are actually not as bad as people make it out to be. So let's get into why people dislike these changes already, even though we haven't got a chance to play it yet. You lose Miasma, you lose Bane, you lose Shadowfair, you lose Fake Covenant, and you lose Energy Drain. So right off the bat, you're losing a lot of DPS skills, and you don't have that many DPS skills left. You have Broil 2, which will be upgraded into Broil 3. You have Bio, which will get updated into Biolysis. And that's really about it. However, Broil 3 looks cool. Like, it looks like it hits pretty hard based on the footage that I was seeing. And you now have a thin air equivalent for Ether Flow. So you can throw out shields like crazy and then get back to broiling. Let's be honest, a lot of the times you're going to be putting on those dots and then you're just going to be back to broiling. So I like that they gave you a new broil on top of that. I know that doesn't seem like a good, compromise for all that you're losing, but you're getting a lot of cool new stuff too. You're getting Chain Stratagem on a shorter recast now, even though it does have less crit increase. You're getting Ruin with double the potency to be able to throw out those ruins. Art of War is a new one that you're getting that's a replacement for Miasma 2. That's a 150 pot instant cast. So although you're not getting a ton of new cool attacking abilities, you're getting healing as well as your shielding, getting some really potent healing as well as your shielding, still being the King of Shields and still having some new moves that I think look really cool and do some decent damage. But I don't think it's as big as a problem as people think. There are a lot of people saying Scholar's dead now. The Scholar's not going to be able to do any damage now. And I disagree. I think Scholar's still going to be doing a lot of damage. I'm really excited to play Scholar now, to be able to see for myself. And I would urge you, if you're worried about Scholar and you think your job is dead now, please give it some time, see what it actually feels like when you play it, and see if these new skills don't maybe give you just enough of what you were looking for in the DPS department. Because double Ruin potency, really nice. For Astrologian, I've seen a lot of people also really upset about Astrologian. I'm just going to head this off right now with cards. Yes, Spread and Royal Road are gone. I don't think this is as big a deal as people are making it out to be, because half the time cards were drawn just to Royal Road them, because you didn't want Aspire. Nobody wanted Aspire, and when you drew Aspire, it's wasted. You just have to throw it into the Royal Road and hope you draw something better. The changes they have made, I think, will fix those problems with cards. Now you can get a Lord or Lady guaranteed. You have 3 cards that are good for melee and 3 cards that are good for range, but all of them give 3% more damage. So even that terrible Spire is good for something now. You throw your cards on your teammates, you get a buff, and it just continues to go from there. Having the horoscope mechanic added in that allows you to augment the cards even more. You have Essential Dignity has charges now. Redraw has charges now. Yes, Time Dilation is gone, but you get Gravity even earlier, so Sinking Dungeon is going to be even better. You get it at 45 now. I really think Astrologian still has a lot to bring to the table. The cards are still really interesting utility that you did not have before. It has some really cool skills. And I think that it's going to be worth the card change. As much as I see people going, cards are gone, cards are trash now. Wait and see. Use the cards for yourself and see if you don't get a little bit more happy when you draw that Spire and now have something to do with it. Since nobody ever really needed that Spire. We'll get into the healer roll actions real quick. There's not much to say about them. Repose is now a roll action for healers. Sure. I've used it before. I'll use it again. It's really useful in Eureka or Palace of the Dead. Sure. Largesse, Eye for an Eye, and Cleric Stance being gone are a bit of a shame. I understand why they're getting rid of them. Protect we already knew was going away. Kind of like Stone Skin did. Eye for an Eye is really useful, so it's a shame to see it go. Largesse is really useful, so it's a shame to see it go. But it sounds like they've increased healing potency enough that we're really not going to need it. So it makes sense to get rid of it here. From there, we have the casters. Black Mage looks insane. Black Mage looks so good now. Flare no longer has the drop-off. It now just has a flat 40% to all enemies up to the first instead of a descending drop-off, which is really good. Again, just like Holy, when you have a lot of enemies. You have Convert, now has a new name and no longer costs HP, which is really good. Transpose's recast time is down. You have Sharpcast every 30 seconds. Enochian's increased to 15%. You now have a single target flare, multiple fouls, and there's no MP cost when switching from Astral Fire to Umbral Ice. So you can burn all your MP in Astral Fire and still cast a Blizzard 3 to get back into Umbral Ice. That's great. There's really not much more I have to say about that. Black Mage sounds incredible. It sounds like an evolution of what we already had, and I can't wait to play it. For Summoner, Summoner is completely different, it feels like, just from what I'm reading. 2 Aetherflow stacks instead of 3. Kind of a shame there. I liked having 3, but you can now get 2 right away from Energy Drain and Energy Siphon, which is really cool. You have Demi Phoenix, of course, which can only be summoned after Demi Bahamut. Demi Phoenix has an ability called Everlasting Flight, which is just a regen for the entire party. That's, yeah, it uses it when it's summoned. It's not even like it takes a weapon skill to use it. That's great. That's really cool. That gives Summoner some utility it really didn't have before, especially with Mana Shift gone, as we'll talk about in a minute. It really gives Summoner a place to stand among the rest of the DPS. You have the ability to switch between your Eggies on the fly now for Summoner, which is really cool. Should note, Scholar does not have the ability to do that. But then you have Ruin potency going up again. You have Ruin 4 can now be procced by your Eggies. Tribind's been replaced. Fester got doubled potency. And Dreadworm now only shortens the cast times for your attacks. But you can use Aetherflow with Dreadworm up, so you get the bonus for that with your Aetherflow skills. So Summoner just sounds like it's a lot easier to play, but also sounds like it's got a lot of cool tools at its disposal, and I'm very excited to play around with that Summoner as well. The final of the casters with Red Mage. Tether is gone, unfortunately, but there's now an AoE version of for Thunder and Verero. I almost said Air Vero. Then you have Contra Sixte is now just like Flare, in that it has the 40% to everything other than the original target, but it can now be used every 35 seconds. The Red Mage has a lot of damage right there before you even get into the rest. It has some new ranged physical attacks in the form of Engagement. After using Engagement, you can now use Displacement at almost triple the potency, which is insane. Red Mage really feels like it's made to build up damage now. You have Manification that allows you to reset Engagement's recast and grant 5% magic damage for up to 10 seconds. You have Impact as an AoE. You have Scorch, which is 700 potency and combos with Verflare or Verholy. It really feels like Red Mage is just bringing the DPS while still being that Red Mage, casting and then immediately casting again, and just building up to being extremely powerful, which is nice. I know a lot of people feel like Red Mage, after you've done Prog, it's not really worthwhile because you could bring other classes to do more damage. And so it's nice to see that Red Mage has some real damage options now, so that it's not just the for progression class that it can be useful in late game content as well without really losing anything. Your casting classes role actions. There's some stuff that's gone. Specifically, Mana Shift, Drain, a Pocket of Stasis, and Erase. Mana Shift's the big one for me. A Pocket of Stasis is really useful, gives you some utility that you wouldn't have otherwise on some of these classes, but Mana Shift was like the thing. And I know that it's more about managing your MP in Shadowbringers, so maybe that's why they got rid of it. It's still kind of sad to see it go, though. I really enjoyed Mana Shift as an extra thing that I could do to help out the healer. But what can you do? It's gone. On to the melee DPS, Samurai is looking great. Samurai has insane damage on some of its new abilities. You have things like Hagakure, the new version, allows you to get 50 Kinki every 60 seconds. So you can half fill your gauge every 60 seconds without even doing anything else, just one press. There you go. Yaijutsu is now down to 1.3 second recast. And you can use it twice with a specific move. You have Sine, which is a single target Gurren, with a current potency of 1250. Yes. I'm in for some high damage Sam. Then you have things like Tenkagoken no longer having drop off. None of the rest of the AoEs have drop off. Then you have that both of your other AoEs, I don't remember the names of the two of them, give you Jinpu and Shifu. You have Setsugeka getting a potency buff up to 800. Sam got buffed. And Samurai is going to be really potent, I think. It's going to do a lot of damage, and it's probably going to catch some people by surprise just how much more damage that it can do now. I really like that they leaned into the idea of Samurai as the guy who doesn't bring utility, but he does bring damage. And so, you know, it's really nice to see that they went ahead with that design philosophy. You know who does have utility, though? That's the Ninja. And Ninja has some crazy cool stuff. All weapon skills will now give Ninki. So you'll build Ninki just on your own now. Tenshijin no longer costs Ninki, so you can use it even more often. Kasatsu has charges that allow you to use it multiple times, or use it and then have one in your pocket. You have Katan and Hyotan get enhanced to new skills after Kasatsu, all of which look really cool. Death Blossom has a combo move into Hake Mujin Sato. You have, which also increases Hyotan, or Hutan, by the way. A lot of abilities here, sorry. You have Duality may be gone, but it's so that you can have Bunshin at 80, which has the Duality effect for 15 seconds and mimics all weapon skills used. There's so many options there. I'm so excited for what Ninja brings to the table with Bunshin. Yes, Shadewalker, Jugulate, and Smokescreen are gone, but Trick Attack's now 500 potency. Assassinate is now tied to Dream Within a Dream, which means you can use it more. Hellfrog Medium does have a 50% drop-off, but at that 50% for a lot of enemies, it's going to be super useful. I'm really happy with these Ninja changes. I think they're really good. I think that getting rid of the aggro skills, since aggro doesn't seem like something we're going to need anymore, is nice. And they really leaned into the idea of let's use those mudras more. Let's enhance those mudras. Let's build that Ninki. And Ninja sounds great. I cannot wait to play around as Ninja. Monk. We lost one Elm Punch. There are a lot of things that we had to give up for this expansion, and we lost one Elm Punch. I know it's going to be missed. I know there's a lot of people probably riding in the streets right now for one Elm Punch. But just remember, never forget, one Elm Punch. So yeah, one Elm Punch is gone, and nobody's going to miss that. None of us really ever used it anyway, right? It's been replaced with an AoE. Monks can now get crits for their own abilities after 74 that grant chakra stacks, which is amazing. Enlightenment is that line AoE Forbidden Chakra and looks really cool. Riddles have been completely reworked, and now you gain the 4th Grease Lightning stack when switching to Fist of Wind. Riddle Fire no longer gives Fist of Fire, so you can use them concurrently. Yes. You have an Atman, which allows you to freeze your stacks in case the boss leaves for a minute and you don't want to lose them, anything like that. 6-sided stars is a little interesting. I'm going to have to play with this one myself to have an opinion on it. because it sounds bad, but I won't know until I play it. It is a 400 potency move that drops your recast timer, or raises, I suppose, your recast timer up to 4 seconds and 88 microseconds for a cast, for a weapon skill, which seems a little high. That number can't be right, right? I don't know, that just seems really crazy to me. Unless it gives you a huge increase, it sounds like they fixed the problem with Monk with damage and speed, and then slowed it back down. Maybe with Grease Lightning, that'll be fine. Maybe it'll be great with the 4th Grease Lightning stack. I really don't know how much that 4th Grease Lightning stack is going to affect it. But we're going to have to just wait and see, honestly, before we know anything else. Shoulder Tackle does have 2 new charges, though, so that's cool. You can use it multiple times. For Dragoon, it only has 2 dive readies needed now to go into Life of the Dragon, or Blood of the Dragon into Life of the Dragon. But only Jump can give them. No more Spine Shatter Dive to be able to give it. And Jump gets upgraded into High Jump at level 74. You also have a new AoE line combo move called Curth and Torment that stacks into the Doomstrike combo. You have a new move called Ride and Thrust that you can use after Wheeling or Fang. And that looks really cool. It's a 330 pot move if it's used back-to-back right after Fang and Claw or Wheeling Thrust, and they are used in correct positionals. We'll get into the positionals in just a second with the roll actions because there are some options there as well. Then you also have that after level 78, your Blood of the Dragon and Life of the Dragon both start at 30 count, so you're not going to have to build up to those anymore, which is amazing. Star Diver, which is the final chorus Kamen Rider move, it's Nidhogg's move. 550 potency with a 30% drop off, unfortunately. Still looks really cool, though. And, of course, Heavy Thrust is gone, and now Disembowel grants a 10% damage buff. Spine Shatter no longer stuns, but it does more potency. Battle Litany is now 10% instead of 15%. Elusive no longer drops your aggro, because aggro effects have been dropped for losing them, and it no longer loses any bind effects or anything like that. However, potency buffs across the board, and Blood for Blood no longer makes you take more damage. It now just gives you more damage. So all in all, there are some things that Dragoon lost, but there's some things that Dragoon gained, and I'm pretty excited about where Dragoon is at right now. For the DPS roll actions for Melee, you have that True North is now a 45-second recast with charges, 2 of them, which is great. It means that now you will be able to use True North to fix problems like Trick Attack or like Fang and Claw and Wheeling Thrust to be able to make sure you get your potency so you can Ride and Thrust. I think this is a great change, and I'm really excited for all of them. Monk is the one I'm least excited for until I can play with 6-sided Star and see what it feels like. But until then, Monk of the 4 is my least excited for, but I'm still really hyped for all of them. And then finally, we have our range DPS. We'll look at Bard first. Bard has that your dots now give you a chance to get repertoire. It no longer is proc-based. Technically, it's still technically proc-based, but it's not based on a crit with your dot. Now it just has a 40% chance to get it every time. You have dots are now 30-second durations. Straight Shot's 10% crit is gone and now shares a recast button with Refulgent Arrow. Your dots can now grant Straight Shot Ready, which allows you to use either Straight Shot or Refulgent Arrow. Quick Knot past 74 now has a 30% chance to reset the recast on Bloodletter Reign of Death, which means your AoE rotation is now so much stronger. Barrage gives guaranteed Straight Sharo Ready. Then you have Troubadour being a 10% damage reduction for the entire party. Army's Payon will now let you keep a little bit of the haste effect, the skill speed up, after you've changed to another song. Shadow Bite is a Sidewinder with no drop-off AoE, which sounds amazing. Man, Bard seems really good. You also have the new Burst Shot that can give Refulgent Arrow. You have Apex Arrow, which is a cube AoE. You need Soul Voice to use Apex, but you gain Soul Voice by using Repertoire. And unfortunately, Foe's Requiem is gone. I think Bard's kit is really strong. I think that the identity they wanted to keep for that job is really nice, and I'm really excited to see how it plays. Again, I want to play it myself to really get a feel for it, but I think these changes are going to be good for Bard. I think that it's not proc-based now, and now allows you to just build up to doing the damage is really nice. I think it's going to make Bard a lot more damaging than what it has been in the past. For Machinist, it's completely different. It's like basically a brand new job. Turret is now tied to your battery gauge, and your Bishop turret is gone. You now only have the Rook turret. If your battery gauge is full, then you will have a longer, up to 20-second duration time on your turrets or on your queen. But if it's less than that, you'll have lower, obviously. I think it caps down at 15, but I'm not positive on that. I would have to see more information that we don't have right now. Hotshot's buff has been removed, and it now just increases your battery gauge. At 76, Hotshot turns into Air Anchor with 400% potency and looks amazing. You can still build heat, but now at 50, you can use Hypercharge to go into Overheated. While overheated, you're able to use Heat Blast and Auto Crossbow. Heat Blast replaces the cooldown and reduces your recast time on Gauss Barrel, or not Gauss Barrel, Gauss Shot. Gauss Barrel's gone. And Ricochet, whereas Auto Crossbow is a cone AoE. Rapid Fire is now incorporated, that's the word I was looking for, into both of these skills and is gone. Your procs are gone. You can now just do the combo. The heated versions of the split shot combo replace them after you level past level 64. Each of them has a different level to get up there. 64 is the last one. Gauss Round and Ricochet have 3 charges after 74, which is insane to me. Wildfire now does more damage per weapon skill used, adding 150 potency each time, so you really want to stack those in there. And Tactician is now Machinist's version of Troubadour, granting a 10% barrier, or 10% damage down, for the entire party. Drill and Bioblaster share a recast. Drill is a single target and builds battery. Bioblaster is a cone AoE that applies a dot. Flamethrower is separate from the heat gauge, so now you can use your flamethrower without worrying about overheating. At level 80, your Rookie is replaced by the Queen. McQueen has a 20-second lifespan at full battery gauge, as we talked about, and a 300 potency gap closer, as well as ending with Pile Driver. You also have the loss of Reload, Quick Reload, Heartbreak, Blank, and Rapid Fire, as well as Dismantle. And, of course, your turret abilities to be able to throw your turrets out, because now the Bishop turret's gone, and Overload is automatically executed at the end of a turret's lifespan. But you still throw out Rook turret if you want to get level 80. I think Machinist looks amazing. I'm super hyped for Machinist. I cannot wait to play it. It's definitely the class that I'm going to level first going into Shadowbringers. I'm so excited for Machinist. It's such a cool rework, and it's right up my alley. I cannot wait for it. It sounds so interesting, too, with the battery gauge and the heat gauge. It sounds like they really listened to what people were saying, and it's no longer proc-based, so that's really cool. Very excited for Machinist. Finally, Dancer. Dancer is proc-based for some of its stuff, so it's kind of weird that they went back to it for Dancer, but it's fine. Standard Step is capped off with an AoE with drop-off and a 60-second damage buff. Technical Step grants party damage buff and Esprit. Esprit allows the party to build gauge for you and has a 15-second duration with a 2-minute cooldown. Closed Position lets you choose a partner to dance with and share your buffs with. You have Curing Waltz, which is a 200 potency AoE heal that triggers twice if you have a partner. Saber Dance is a 30% increase to direct hit and criticals for 15 seconds on a 2-minute cooldown. That is insanely good. Saber Dance is amazing. Devilment, which costs some of your gauge, is a circle AoE with drop-off. Dancer's attacks are proc-based, as we mentioned, which means that you will need a couple procs to be able to use some of the continuing combos. But it also has, of course, the dance mechanic, where you will need to hit buttons in the right timing to be able to use the ability. All of Dancer's AoEs have drop-off, from what I could tell. Flourish, after level 72, forces a proc, so you can force a proc if you really need one. You have En Avant, which is the movement ability with 3 charges past level 78. Shield Samba is their Troubadour, giving again that 20% damage reduction, or 10% damage reduction to the entire party. Improvisation is Sam's Meditate, but with Muck's Mantra bundled in, and grants more healing, and grants more meter the more party members are nearby. Dancer sounds insane. I literally don't know what Dancer is going to play like. All of this information is cool, but I need to get my hands on it to really be able to tell you. Very excited. I'll be making a video on my first impressions of Dancer and Gunbreaker for sure. And then, of course, we'll talk about all the jobs once I have them all to 80. But be very excited. I think this is going to be really great. To finish off our DPS role actions for ranged, Head Graze is now an interrupt instead of a silence. The loss of Palisade, regular Tactician as we knew, I mean, we knew it was going to go. But Refresh is really interesting. I thought for sure we'd keep Palisade. I didn't think Palisade was going anywhere. But it really feels like the damage reduction they want the tanks to focus on, other than a couple specific skills. So I guess it makes sense. But I really liked Palisade. I used it pretty often because there was no reason not to. And so it's a little strange to have it gone. All told, though, I'm very excited for the jobs. I think they all look really good. There's a couple that I'm a little concerned with, like Monk. I want to know more about Six-Sided Star. Scholar, I want to get the chance to play for myself. Dancer, there's just a lot, and I need to parse it. But everybody else, I think, looks really good, really powerful. Some really cool stuff going on. And I do think some of the role action losses are kind of unfortunate. I would have liked to keep Palisade. I would have liked to keep Awareness. But, you know, I would have loved to keep Largesse. But I'm excited to see what they have in store for us. So, with all that said, I've been Trey. This has been the Full Spectrum. Let me know what you thought of the media tour information down below in the comment section. And until next time, remember to always enjoy the full spectrum that Final Fantasy XIV has to offer.